everyone, this is Cristy with Aerybeth Sewing, and today I'm going to show you how to make these cute little pouches. This one has a little loop on the side. I put a little extra fun stitching right there. Zipper. Now, and so it's a very simple way to make these. These are so cute. You make them with the loop, and then they have little flat bottoms, and you know they're about this little bit bigger than your hand. Great to put different things in a purse or a backpack, and then you can decide to make them bigger depending on what size pattern you make. So let's go ahead and get started on these, and I'm going to show you what you need. Okay, so there's a whole little lot of things here that we're going to use. You saw the little loop on one of the zipper bags, and this is like a twill tape. You can get this from Hobby Lobby or Walmart or Joann's or another fabric store or online. And so you only need a little bit over 4 inches for that. All right, you will need a zipper. Now, the bag itself is pretty, let's see, it's not very long. It is about 5 inches wide at most. So you can get a short zipper. If you have a longer zipper like I do, I don't have a short zipper on hand. But if you have a longer one, that's fine. You can always cut it down. But you can use an all-purpose zipper on the top of this. Okay. I wouldn't use metal on this, but I would use the nylon teeth, the all-purpose zippers. Okay. So you will need a zipper. You will need a sewing gauge ruler to help you measure from the edge to draw some straight lines. And you will need a straight edge. So I use this long straight edge ruler as a guide. You could actually use a regular ruler, but you will need something to measure from the side, and you will need a straight edge. So these two are important. I do have a list of different products on my page, on my Aerybeth page, the link's below on my website, of different products that you need when you sew. And these are some good ones. There's acrylic rulers on there. There's the sewing gauge ruler. Okay. You will need a zipper foot that comes with your sewing machine. Okay. Looks kind of like a little tongue sticking out. So there's your zipper foot. I do have some paper scissors because when I cut off the end of the zipper, I don't want to use my good sewing scissors on cutting the end of the zipper teeth. I have my fabric scissors. I do have some chalk that works well on the darker fabric, but if you have lighter fabric, you can use this is a water soluble or air soluble. The purple goes away with time, the blue goes away with water, but they both can wash out. There's also, this is also on my products page. I don't sell them, but I do have a link to Amazon. There's also a heat transfer pen that will go away with an iron when you iron over it. And then I have taken a piece of paper. You know, a piece of paper is 8.5 by 11. So I cut off 1 inch off the side, and you can do a 7.5 by 11, 11 by 7.5. So you can actually put a straight edge here, draw a line, cut off the extra inch, and that's the pattern piece. Now, on the back of my outside piece, so I'm going to have this fabric, the love fabric, as the outside, and then I'm going to have the black as the inside for the lining. Both of these are 100% cotton, and you can use interfacing on the back. And interfacing is this right here. It's fusible lightweight interfacing, and you can get this at a fabric store. I got this at Hobby Lobby. I believe Walmart may have it. But this is just ultra lightweight, and it's really thin. You can tell it's like, but it gives it just a little bit of structure, but not like thick structure. And then this is fusible fleece, and this gives it a little bit more structure, a little bit more stability. This one has fusible fleece, and then this one, you see how it's more floppy? That one has interfacing, but it still stands up pretty. Okay, so the end product looks about the same. It's just this one has a little bit more structure. When you push it down, it kind of pops back up. See? So that's just the difference. It just gives it a little bit different structure feeling to it. Okay, so those are what you'll need, and of course you'll need some all-purpose thread to match. And I used red on this, but you can use black or white as well. Just pick something that if you will stand out if you want to put the extra fun stitches on it, or something that will blend in, like if you're using the red zipper and you want to use red on that. Okay, so after that, let's get started. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut out a piece of your pattern out of the outside fabric, out of the lining, and of the fusible fleece, or of the interfacing. Now, I only put it on the outside piece, and you can see it's almost the same size. I didn't want it to go over and iron on my ironing board. And then you just iron this on. You could put it on the back. There's little bumpy sides, that's the glue. You make sure you put the bumpy side down, and you can iron it, or you can iron it on this side too, and that way it will stick. Okay, so you cut out all 3 of those. All right, next what we're going to do is we're going to take the pieces and I'm going to put them together and make sure they're really together. Now, we as humans don't cut really evenly a lot, so if it's not perfect, don't worry about it. We will trim it all up in the end. You get it as perfect as you can. Now, I'm going to turn this sideways, and I'm going to take my little ruler here and measure up 4.5 inches. I'm going to put down, I'm going to put that ruler right on the edge. You could use a regular ruler or a yardstick, and there's the 4.5. Now you can use a ruler and hold that right there, or you can take your chalk and mark at the end of this sewing gauge and then connect the dots. So I'm just putting this here and then this here. Now I've got it about 4.5 on this, and then I'm going to draw a straight line. Okay, you can see that chalk mark. Now once I have that chalk mark, I'm going to cut through the fusible fleece, which is on the back of this, and I'm going to cut through that. Alright, now I'm going to take these apart. I'm going to take my zipper with the head up, and it's long, it doesn't matter. I actually like it longer than the fabric because then you don't have to deal with it getting the head or in the way, or the piece of metal, okay, because there's a piece of metal down here, so it's out of the way totally. So I'm going to put that even with the top of that. Then I'm going to put this down on top, sandwiching it in. And then I'm going to make sure that all 3 of these are straight together. And then I'm going to pin, and I'm going to move to the middle and make sure they're all together right near the end. And I only worry about that next inch. I don't worry about all the way across. Just worry about this next inch. Not really worry, just making sure you're getting it even. Now, if for some reason I don't have it even, see the black's sticking out just a little bit, but it is even on the other side, that just means I cut weird. And if I cut weird, then I can just lift this up a little bit and trim it up. Got it almost even. Alright, now I have it pinned even at the top. Don't worry about the sides and everything really yet. Okay. So now I'm going to move my pieces out of the way and my ruler out of the way. But what I need to do is I need to change this. So there's a button on the back of your machine that you take off, and your presser foot has 2 sides. I want to put it on the left hand side because I want to go down this side and have the presser foot out of the way. So I'm going to put this under here, And I don't have to lift it up toward my machine. I'm just going to lower my presser foot down to grab it. And then I'm just going to put this with my sides together underneath that. Now, you can fill your zipper. What you're going to try to do is, here's your tape back here. I want to get it in the middle of the tape. So I'm going to put my presser foot down and I'm going to back stitch. If the thread is getting in the way, you just kind of put it under to the back. Alright, so I'm just going to sew. See if I can get it close in for you. I'm going to sew, and you can feel your zipper teeth right there, so I don't want to get close to that. So I'm just going to go down the side. And just keep glancing to make sure you have all of them together, all sides. And I see the black under there, and I can see the red. Alright, once I get to the end, I'll stop there, and I back stitch, and needle up, pressure fit up, and then there's my stitch. And I go ahead and cut off all my threads, because I really don't want to deal with it later. So I've finished that, so now I'm going to open it back up. And I'm going to put, there's the black, and there's the red, and there's my zipper. And I want to pull my zipper, grab both pieces, put them together, and kind of pull them out straight. I want to make sure, now you can iron this, or you can just pin it like that. And then I'll grab the black underneath there and pull it straight. Pull my red straight. And in a second, I'm going to look at the back and make sure the back has been pulled down as well. So I'm kind of just pulling them both away from the zipper. Alright. It's all pinned up. Then let's look at the back. And it's all pinned up and it's pulled down. Now, this looks like the red is a little bit longer, and that's okay. We can trim that off at the end. Sometimes it just works out that way, so don't stress about that. Okay? Now, I need to top stitch. Put my zipper foot on the other side, because I want to leave my fabric to the outside of my machine. So I'm going to put it down here, and I want to put my needle close to that top edge. I don't want to get on the zipper tape, and I don't want to get far over to the left. So I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to back stitch because I went a little bit further up, and then I'm going to stitch close to the edge all the way down. Back stitch, forward, needle up, presser fit up, pull it past your machine to cut off your threads, because if you cut them off short, you'll have to rethread. And then I've got some 2 threads here, 1 thread here, 1 thread on the back. Got to cut those off. Alright, the first one's done. Alright, so now, piece, right side, right side. So I'm going to flip this down. Now you can determine which way you want it to. So if you want it like that, or you want it like that. And realize this will be the back going down the back. So I'm actually going to put it this way. So the back will be going the same direction as the front once we fold it down. So right side, I'm going to put right sides together like that. Right sides. Okay, and I'm not fixed the top yet, but I'm going to now turn it over to the back and put right sides together like that. Okay, so now I'm going to put the sides together and the top. So I'm putting that to here, putting that at the top, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the red. Okay, Right, so I'm going to flip it back over because I want to sew on the red side. Okay, I'm going to put a pin here, matching up your top. Okay, we're going to sew here now. Now the zipper fits on the wrong side again, so I'm going to click that off, put that over here. Here's my thread, so I'm going to make sure it goes to the back. Alright, so I'm put my presser foot down and put the needle in and take this pin out. I'm going to back stitch back to the beginning of the fabric and sew right on that side. You can feel the zipper teeth, so I know I'm not getting too close. And I can look on the side and see the black, the fusible side, the zipper side, and the black. To the end, back stitch, needle up, presser fit up. There's a, tuck that back in. There's some more threads at the top. Okay, so now I'm going to open this up, and then I'm going to take this side and open it up as well. I'm going to again pull those. I'm pulling it this way, and you can iron it, and then I'm pulling this way, and you can kind of finger press. And I'm going to put a pin as I'm pulling that down right here. All right, so now I'm going to top stitch right here, but I'm going to look at the back to make sure all of it's away from this zipper. Okay. All right, so now I can leave it on this side because now I can sew on this side. Okay, I just don't want my presser foot to be on the zipper. All right, so I'm putting my needle down, I'm back stitch, and I'm going to keep pulling it this way and go all the way down. Needle up, presser foot up, pull it past your machine, cut your thread. Right. We have done the zipper, so we can take our zipper foot off. You hit the button on the back, put it somewhere safe, and let's put our other one back on. And we tuck our threads in to the back. Okay, so this is where, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and put a cute little stitch on at the top or the bottom of below or above the zipper. So I'm going to look over here. Let's see what I've got. So there's some cute little stitches down here at the bottom. So I think I'm going to do maybe a 67 there. I'm going to go up here and change this to a 6 and a 7, and it's already preset over here, so I don't have to do anything with that. And so what I'm going to do is changed the thread just a little bit. It's kind of a maroon color. So this top stitch that we made right here, I'm going to use that as the guide, and I'm just going to go straight down to the end of that and just keep it even with that line that I made. So once you select your stitch, you just go. Don't push or pull. Just keep it right on your edge. Let it do its thing. Because it kind of goes back and forth. And look at that. You see that? Like little bows. Okay. I'm going to turn it over here to the other side. Now I'm going to choose 64 on this one. And these are little bows. That one was like some little leaves. All right. I made my 2 little sets of little designer stitches. Okay. All right, now I'm ready to continue. Now, I'm going to put this down. Now, if you notice, one side is bigger than the other one. So when I put it down here and the zipper's at the top, you can see it's a lot shorter. That's what I want it to be. Now, I'm not going to sew it this way, but I am going to put my 2 edges together down here. And you can see the zippers on the other side, up here at the top, folded over. So the very first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to sew it this way, but I am going to pin it so it won't move. Okay, now it won't move. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I need to make a 1 1/4 inch square. So you can do it 2 ways. There's 1 1/4 on your ruler, and you can put this down and mark 1/4 here at the end, 1/4 here. Okay, so you got the line going up. Now that's sideways. Now I'm going to do it from the bottom. 1/4 here, 1/4 here. Okay, so I've made the little square. Okay, that's okay. But you can also take one of these rulers. There's 1 1/4. Okay, actually, move my stuff out of the way. All right, here's 1 1/4 right there. 1 1/4 at the bottom, and you can take a pin and draw around that square. Okay, I'm going to put it down right here. 1 1/4 at the bottom, 1 1/4 on the side, and then I can draw around it. You have your 1 1/4 inch square. Alright, so I have my 2 squares. Now, I need to also measure over from the side 1 1/4 right here. We're not cutting this. So there's our 1 1/4 inch line from the side. Okay? I'm going to go over here to the other side and measure 1 1/4 from that side. And mark right here. Alright, so now there is 1 1/4 inch mark over here and over here. Okay? Now, if I'm using this pen, it disappears quite easily. So you kind of have to do things kind of fast, depending on the fabric. Alright, so even with the top of the square, and then even with that 1/4 mark. You see there's a diagonal there? So it's from the top of that square, okay, top of that square right there, to the top of this right here. Alright, so I'm going to put that down, and put that right there, the top there, and I'm going to draw a diagonal line. You'll be able to see it in just a second. Okay, do you see that? Top of the square to that mark. Alright, let's do it again. Here's that little mark. I'll put that down on the top of that, and then the top of the square down here. Alright, now you should be able to see that. So I'm going to open this up, okay, and now I'm going to take these out for a minute and open this up, and I'm going to put those together, and you see that diagonal markers there? I'm going to go right in front of that little mark, and I'm going to do a zigzag. Now, I don't want it to go forward. I'm just going to hold it in place kind of tight. You could turn your feed dogs off, but it won't take but just a second. So I'm going to take my sewing machine, And I'm going to turn it to a 0-4. Turn it to a 0-4. And then I'm going to make this a 5 and a 1.8. Now on the back of your machines, you can turn your feed dogs off and it keeps the fabric from moving forward. But I'm only going to do this for just a second. And so I can just hold it in place. So I want to make sure that my needle goes down on one side of the zipper and then goes down on the other side of the zipper. Okay, now I don't want it to go forward, so I'm just going to hold it in place and get back and forth a few times. And so don't let it come forward, kind of hold it tight. And then you have a little thing right here. So now you have a zipper end, because we're going to cut this off in a minute here, and you won't want the zipper to come off. Okay. All right, now here's our zipper little head. You want it in the middle so you won't lose it. So now I'm going to go to the other side, and do you see our diagonal mark right here? That's where we're going to cut it in a minute. So again, I'm going to go on the inside of that, right past that little chalk line to the inside. I'm going to make sure I'm on one side of the zipper and then on the other side of the zipper. And then I'm going to hold it tight so it won't move forward, because I don't want to sew. I just want to go back and forth. But if you want to turn off your feed dogs, you can do that as well, and that way it won't move in. But I'm going to hold it tight. And now we have another end right here. So now our zipper won't go past that. Okay, all right. I'm going to pull this out, cut off all my threads. Because there's going to be threads everywhere. Get all your threads off. Out of the way. Okay, so now we can actually put this back, matching up the bottoms. Okay, I'm just going to put a pin right in the middle, just like we had it before, just to hold it together. I matched up the bottom, matched up the sides, and I don't want it moving. Okay, so now we have, okay, so matching up the bottoms, matching up the sides. So now we have our diagonal line. So I'm going to take some, you can use fabric scissors up to this point, like this. I'm going to cut right on that line, but I don't want to use fabric scissors on my zipper, so I'm going to cut right across. Okay, and you see the little mark we made when we sewed, so now the zipper won't fall off. All right, same thing for over here. Actually, I'm going to put a pin right here so this won't move. Okay, we can put here right on that line, but I'm going to use this. To get past my zipper, I can use my fabric scissors again. Alright, so that's the first part. Alright, that's the first part, cutting those angles. And now we're going to cut our squares. And you can cut the squares just on those lines. But sometimes our other side, so you cut your square with your scissors. Get those real even. But sometimes our markings on the other side aren't very even. So you can cut it with your scissors, or you could fold it over on that angle right there. Or you can fold it over on that angle right there and use this as a guide. Because I think I cut further up on one than the other. Just make sure they're completely even. Okay, trim this off and get that even. And now I have both squares the same. So when I open it up, it's exactly the same on both sides. Trim that up and get it a little even. All right, now I've got a mess over here. All right. trim up the bottom just a little bit. Okay, but now this is the right side. So I'm going to take the pins off and we're going to flip it right side out. And see, now we don't have to worry about the zipper coming apart there. And you want to make sure that this is unzipped. So we're going to put right sides together. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that bottom matches first. And if you want, you can actually take a ruler and go in about 1/2 inch. And you can draw a straight line. And then you can pin it. Okay, so the bottom's pinned now. Let's pin the sides. You can do the same thing. We can take this and put it down on the sides. And you can make sure that's about 1/2 inch or less. Our little tab here that we did, our little ending for our zipper at the top, we can sew right beside that. It's not going to hurt to sew beside it. Actually, let's go in about 1/4 inch on that side. 1/4 inch. Okay, and then we're going to pin that side. So let me pull that down and make those little sides match. And I put my pin on one side and then fold it back, pin it so the line's kind of in between where the pin is. Okay. Alright, so that side's pinned. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to match up these sides. I'm going to put this down. And if it looks a little wonky, just like the bottom's hanging out, just go with the one on top. So we're going to put that on 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. I'm going to draw a line. All right, and I've taken my twill tape right here, I put it in with the end sticking out, and then put it right even with the zipper here. I put it on the right hand side because once you turn it right side out, it will be on the left side if you're looking at. All right, so now we're ready to sew and back stitch down here. Do it on all 3 of those. So there's your twill tape. It's about 4.5 inches. Alright, so now I'm going to turn back to a straight stitch with a 1 on my machine, which is in the middle, and I'm going to do a stitch length of a 1 and a length of 3. I'm leaving the bottom number the same. So I'm going to put a presser foot down and roll my needle into that white chalk line. We have our little ending tab right here where the zipper will stop, the zipper stop. We can sew over it or we can sew to the side of it. Either way, it doesn't matter. All right, so my needle's in, back stitching to the top, going across, and I'm actually sewing over the pins. They're sideways. It's not going to hurt anything, but if you're cautious, go ahead and take them out. To the end, we're going to back stitch, sew off, needle up. Go ahead and cut off the top threads, pull it out, cut off the bottom threads, and I'm going to do that on all of these. Now I want to trim off the sides just a little bit, just get them even. Alright, and now I've turned to a zigzag, and I'm going to zigzag right on the edge. I'm not going to go past my straight stitch. I'm going to just do it on the edge. One on, one off, one on, one off, and it kind of wraps around. Alright, almost done. Now we have our squares, and we're going to open. We're going to stick our hand in here and open those squares and put seam to seam. So I'm going to open those up and put seam to seam. Just make sure it's all flat. Okay? And I'm just going to sew about a 1/4 inch from the bottom. You can use your presser foot as the guide. Okay, so you can sew it this way, or you can sew it on top this way. It doesn't really matter. Same thing over here. I'm going to reach in. I'm going to open that square. Put those seams together. If one of them sticks out a little bit like a point, that's okay. We're just going to sew straight across, and then we'll cut off the little part that sticks out. Back to a stitch length of a 1. A stitch of a 1 and a length of a 3. Alright, so I'm going to put this under here, putting my presser foot kind of like on the side of that, and I'm kind of aiming for this side over here. If it sticks out over here a little bit, just keep going straight. You can kind of tell with it straight. So down, back stitch back to the beginning because you don't want there to be any holes. And don't go too fast because there's a lot of fabric in there. And if you didn't get far enough over, like down, and there's like, when you take out your pins, you can kind of look in here and see if you got all your fabric. And if you didn't, go back and do it again. So sometimes do it twice anyway to just reinforce it, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on that right there. See, I got really close to that, so I'm going to go up just a little bit more. And then I cut it off and get it even. Let me do the other side, and then I'm going to zigzag. So I try to get those nice and as pretty as I can. Alright, so I'm going to put that down. That one I did better, but I'm going to go ahead and reinforce it. It's not going to hurt. We'll do it twice. Especially if you're giving it away as a gift, you want it to be pretty. Okay. Alright, I'm going to turn it back to a 4, which is my zigzag, and I'm going to go 4.5 on the bottom for the width and 1.8 on the top for the length. And I'm going to make sure I'm doing one off, one on, but I don't want to go past my straight stitch. Okay, I'm going to back stitch, one on, one off, all the way down, and back stitch at the end. Just get all your threads all cleaned up and out of the way. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to reach in and turn her all right out and poke out all those corners and the bottom. Okay, and then there's a top corners up here, top corner up here. All right, you are completely finished. You can iron it to where it's flat. You can top stitch the top if you want, but besides that, you are all the way finished. So let's zip it up, and then how about that? Feel free to go visit me online at aerybeth.com. You can contact me from the web, and you can comment below if you have questions. And I hope you enjoy this project. It's a really fun project and pretty easy to do. Have a wonderful day.